that's part of the success of the Greek American community here in Greece. Is they always found a niche, a place where they could succeed. I've heard stories about how a lot of the initial Greeks came here to Birmingham to work in the steel mills and to do mining. And after about a week of being in a mine or at a steel mill, they said this is not going to work. And so they came up with, having a sandwich shop and selling sandwiches to the guys that work. Candy factories, importing produce. One of the families that's still involved with the church was part of the group that started bringing bananas for the first time into Alabama. So you really see it with the food, and of course, our greatest visibility is probably the Greek festival. People come for the dancing, the church tours, and to eat the food and drink the good wine.
I think Greeks are known here in America in general, and specifically here in Birmingham, as often as restaurateurs. That's the niche that they found when they came to America. They were immigrants, often with nothing in their pocket. They were entrepreneurs. They were hardworking, and this is how they found to make a living. But it's not necessarily something that is, how can I say? I mean, the Greek cuisine is delicious. It's one of my favorite. But also there's more to Greek culture than Greek cuisine. I mean, especially if you look at the ancient heritage and the heritage that was developed and preserved through the church. I mean, it's the Greek culture that gave us the language of the scriptures, that preserved, that formed the canon of the New Testament, that transmitted that and preserved that throughout the centuries. So, in addition to pre-Christian times, ancient philosophy, which laid the groundwork for the spread of Christianity. So I think there's something more to be appreciated in the Greek culture than simply the cuisine or the dancing. But those are important parts because they're physical expressions of something deeper, especially of the church. I mean, like we were saying earlier, I think we see Christ expressed in all of these outward manifestations, even in the hospitality that people experience at the festival. I think this is an expression of our people's Christian faith, that it's something they're inviting people in. I think this is part of what attracts people to the festival. They feel invited in, welcomed as guests into this family, and it's kind of an experience that I think is somewhat dying in America, somewhat missing. I think there's just so many people who are isolated and disconnected in our culture, and people are really searching for stability and for roots, and it's led to a renewed appreciation of different cultures. In the 1950s, what the Greek community experienced here and all throughout the U.S. was this push to Americanization, to homogenization, and that was just across America broadly. Many of the Greeks report, their parents didn't want them to learn Greek because they didn't want to be different. They didn't want their kids to grow up with an accent. The kids didn't want to go to school and have Greek food in their lunchbox because it looked different and smelled different. So they wanted peanut butter and jelly, and they wanted American foods, and that was that era. But I think now in our time we've moved almost 180 degrees. I think now we're really in an era where we're celebrating diversity. And so I think that's probably increased the appreciation for what the Greek community can offer, and specifically what they taste in the festival.
The festival kind of gives a very full picture of life. We're not just inviting them to eat, a gyro and have a Greek lager, right? All of life is kind of part of this festival. We're inviting you to see the dances. Most importantly, everybody that comes to the festival is invited to come into our church, to see, what ultimately is and has always been the heart of the Greek American community here in Birmingham. It's all of life is kind of, experienced here at the festival, and really that's a big part of the identity of the Orthodox Church is all of life, you know, from marriage to the birth of a child to its end with death. All of it finds its place, and it's kind of lifting up